With Fusion 360 open, as you're going to see, I'm going to go ahead and hit save, and this is going to be our simple bushing. And with that said, we're going to go ahead and move into our sketch workspace. So what I'm going to do is create a sketch. In this case, my machine is going to be a Z and an X axis rotational machine. However, I'm going to sketch on the ZY plane, and this is personal preference. There's no right or wrong here. Don't worry if you guys were to do a setup later for milling. It's not a big deal. But I am, as my last video has said, I'm a big fan of rectangles, and rectangles will do a lot for you. So we're going to go ahead and sketch a 2-point rectangle. And as you're going to see is I am going to drop several rectangles very quick. And the reason for this is in the case of this bushing, we're going to have a shoulder, as you guys can see here. We're also going to have a step with a bore. So with very little mouse clicks of the two rectangle system, again, I can do that again over here, is I can very quickly create those profiles that I want to machine or turn or use in my design. So I'm actually going to undo those two. And with that, we're going to hit escape to cancel out our rectangle tool. But now we can start to be precise with this. So I'm going to go ahead and go to sketch dimension, and I'm going to go off my center line to the inside of my bore. And that being said is I want a 5/8 bore maybe. So I'm going to say 0.625 divide by 2, giving me that inside diameter. And then from there, I could start to add more dimension. So it doesn't overly matter which way you dimension everything. Maybe this bushing is 2 inches long. I want the actual OD of this area here. Maybe we're going to be, we did 625 there. Let's go 1 inch divide by 2 because we're looking for that radius. And now you're seeing we're starting to run into some of our first problems. Our sketch design is different than what we have. That's okay. We can hit escape. We can drag that line down because it's not fully constrained. So the cool thing is we can actually position this any way that we want at the end of the day. So let's go ahead and add another rectangle in the meantime. So let's say we were going to put a bearing on both ends of this. So we're going to press in a bearing on both ends of this shoulder bushing or this roller, whatever we want to identify it as. And again, I'm going to go back to my dimension tool. I use the hotkey D. Let's get the outside diameter here. And in this case, this is going to also be, let's go 1.5 inches divided by 2. I only want that shoulder to be 375. And then we could start to set our actual race, where our races are going to push in and things of that nature. So we're going to go just a 1/4 inch in. I'm also going to make this a 1/8 inch tall. And now that I have this first one, let's go over to the second one. So these are identical in my design. So I'm going to create that long dimension here, and I'm going to pick that first dimension. And what you're going to see is that's now fixed to one another. I could do the same thing also on this side here by picking this dimension over here, which is D7, or I could actually use a constraint. And that constraint I'm looking for is called horizontal vertical. And what horizontal vertical is going to do is allow me to pick the corner of both of those areas and then lock them to one another. So if this distance changes, this distance will automatically update without actually having to add more dimensions and possibly causing more confusion in my drawing. Stand corrected, this is actually a sketch, not a drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and now reposition some of my actual sketch dimensions just to clean this up if I want to. You don't have to do this because none of this is really going to make a difference once we go in and create our solid body off our profile. So now that I have the shape and the profile I want, a lot of you are probably questioning, why don't I trim these lines? The reason why I don't trim them is because I don't want to break any of the constraints in place. And the real profile that we're going to spin is just going to be these two little segments here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit finish sketch. And then I'm going to go up to the top. I'm going to hit revolve. Notice how I'm not selecting anything. You can pre-select these profiles if you like. I'm actually just going to hit escape before. So I grab that revolve tool, pick the two profiles I want. I am going to look at this a little bit more isometric here at the corner because I am going to base everything off a center axis. And as soon as I pick that center axis, you're going to notice that it takes that roller and spins it into the profile that I want. So a few things that I didn't do, and again, is if I was to machine this, square corners are always a pain. but I'm actually going to go in and I'm going to add some different details by modifying this body. So I'm going to put a nice little 30 thou fillet down here for my turning guy. I'm also going to possibly go in and add a couple of chamfers to this part. So again, as I'm just picking the edges, so we're going to go ahead and break all these edges. Again, we have a few on the backside. And let's just go ahead and throw in a 15 thou edge break everywhere. And one thing that I did fail to do is we did do a nice radius on this outside. We should probably add a nice little radius in here, again, based on our tool that we're going to use to turn this. But a neat trick that you could do if you ever wanted to split a profile is we can actually go up here to inspect, and we could do a section analysis and pick our plane. And then we are going to have to flip this. And just like that, as you're seeing, is we now have that half profile of our part. And we can turn this off at any time by going over here to the left in the Analyze area and toggling that on and off, making it easier to access the inside of our part and pick faces. So I failed to actually add those radiuses to other parts of my part. I'm going to go down here in my timeline and I'm going to pick that radius. And then I'm not going to make them 30 like that first one. I'm going to make them 15. So I'm going to hit that little plus sign, go through, pick the two edges I want to add, go ahead and plug in that 15 thou radius. And as you can see, I'm doing two different fillets of two different sizes, all in the same actual feature. So now that we have that, we can go ahead and we can kind of finish up our design. We could save this file, of course, out that it's ready to be manufactured or be used later in a design. Another thing I can do is, let's say, for example, I need to change the dimensions of this. I could actually go to my sketch down here in the bottom. And let's say we want to make this 3 inches long. I would like to make the OD of this guy actually 2 inch divided by 2. And then you know what? This shoulder section right here is going to be a, let's go, instead of 1, let's go 125. And then let's change our bore also. So our bore is going to be 1 inch. So again, all I'm doing is I'm going through and changing those dimensions to get everything adjusted. We are going to actually have an issue with that. So I'm going to go ahead and change this guy to 1.5 just to get that profile a little bit cleaner. So as soon as I hit finish, notice how my entire bushing has updated now to all my new dimensions and still maintain that profile. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn off that analyze so that we can look at that bushing. And with that, if you guys are liking this content, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. As well, watch more of my videos. And as always, you can find me at the link below if you ever have questions or looking for custom training.